4192. That's 1-800-925-4192, the State Police Fusion Center. If you have any information regarding the 7 remaining, anything, please call us. We need your help to make Louisiana safe. We recognize that some of these individuals may have left the city and moved out into other parishes and possibly left Louisiana. And that's why we have our federal partners here with us who have leveraged all of their resources to keep not only New Orleans safe, but all Louisiana. So just again, with regard to our role, yes, we will take custody of those prisoners and we'll make arrangements to ensure that they are properly booked and relocated to one of the 8 state prisons in Louisiana. Thank you.
FBI.
Thank you, Chief. Colonel Hodges. Good evening. The FBI remains committed to assisting our state, local, and federal partners in recapturing the remaining 7 inmates who escaped. To do this, we need your help. We appreciate all the tips we've received so far. We have agents and analysts working 24/7 to receive more tips. So please call and help us accomplish this task. It's going to take everybody doing their part to recapture the remaining inmates. If you have any information, and it doesn't matter what time of day, please call 1-800-CALL-FBI, or you can submit your tip online by going to fbi.gov/New Orleans Fugitives, or contact our Crime Stoppers partners. Thank you very much.
Darlene.
Well, first I want to thank y'all who called in or sent in tips online or through our app. And we saw success from that. We had 1 apprehension because of your tips. And we're just going to, again, encourage you to see the team behind us. All information is being vetted, federal, state, local. That's an incredible network that you should feel so strong about, knowing that public safety is the key here. And taking your information, you're part of that team. So again, with Crime Stoppers, you're going to be anonymous. You know that. You know the number, 822-1111. We have a $2,000 cash reward for each escapee's arrest. The FBI has another $5,000. Make the call, send the tip, don't delay. And thank you.
All right, we'll have 1 round of questions. We'll start with Box 8.
Do we have any more information about the 3 OPSO employees that were suspended?
Good evening, everyone. Again, the point of this press conference tonight is to focus on apprehending the 7 remaining fugitives. We're not going to discuss anything that happened prior to the escape of those offenders or inmates. That needs to remain everyone's focus. So the tips when you call in, please, we need the public's help. It's your city, it's your state. We want it safe for your family, your friends, those who came in town for the high school and college graduations this weekend across the state. We need your help. So I just respect that all the other stations and media that's here, please, questions related to our investigative efforts to apprehend the 7 remaining. Thank you.
I think that's Katie. Is that Katie next?
Katie Rice from CBS News. Question for you. 2 questions. First, just in the way you were able to describe about how one of the first inmates that you apprehended was found hiding in a parking garage, can you explain the details a little more clearly about how these other 2 were apprehended? And also then moving forward, do you have evidence that shows any of these folks have left the state at this point?
So we have strong investigative leads on the remaining 7. We're confident that they will eventually be apprehended. With regard to the 3 that are in custody now, they were in various parts throughout the city. Specifically, their apprehension, although we were able to take them all without any trips to seek medical attention, we still had people to ensure, our EMS, to ensure that everyone was okay at the scene. But we don't want to really give up the exact how and where we located them specifically. Just know that all investigative tools and technology that law enforcement has were utilized in the apprehension, but none more important than the public's help and giving us that information through Crime Stoppers really is a force multiplier in our investigative efforts.
Okay, Jonah.
Hey, you talked to a little bit, we're hearing about a police presence on Canal Street. Do you know anything about that presence or a fourth suspect? But also, talk to how every second is critical at this point.
Well, for your first part, look, there's police officers, sheriff's deputies, troopers, FBI agents, U.S. Marshals, ATF agents, HSI agents, all over the metropolitan area and throughout the state right now. Yes, every second is critical. As we get leads and tips, we investigate them. For an officer safety perspective, we always want to make sure we have a large group to ensure the safety of the public who's there in that area, as well as those who are working the investigation, and the safe and secure apprehension of those who are fugitives. Each second does count. Certainly, the sooner we can apprehend them, the sooner everyone can be rest assured that they are no longer a threat to the public. These are violent offenders who escape, and we have to bring them back. And they will go to a state prison.
26.
So there was a shooting in New Orleans East Willow recently. I believe it may have been an officer-related one. Does that have any connection with this situation currently, or is that a completely separate incident?
Right. So it was an event in which there were law enforcement federal partners who were out there actually on surveillance of a target home, and completely independent, they heard gunfire erupt. And when they went to that particular scene, which had nothing to do with this particular investigation, that matter has been dealt with. No one has been injured. No law enforcement was involved in the exchange of gunfire, and it is not connected.
Okay. Last question goes to Channel 4.
And what do you guys have to say to the public? You know, there's still 7 people on the run here. We talked to some people in schools that are scared to walk outside. You know, kind of do you have anything to put their mind at ease, or, you know, are they in any danger just walking around the streets of New Orleans?
What we can say is that we'll speak to the fact that the people who are fugitives right now are dangerous people. Is the general public right now, should they panic? And the answer is no. Now, our number one mission, despite anything else right now, is to get these people in custody. So I think you can still, fully enjoy graduation ceremonies tomorrow, having dinner out, the things that you would normally do. However, we just ask that you are mindful and you're attentive. You call us if you think that something is out of order. You call us. Sometimes people think, well, I don't want to call 911. What if I am wrong? But what if you're right? And so call us. But don't panic. Just simply continue living and enjoying life, but just be cautious. That's what we have. And we're going to keep you updated until every single one of them are accounted for and back in custody. So we think that based on the leads we've been getting, these are active and real leads. So keep talking to us. We need you.
All right, thank you all for coming out. We appreciate it. If we have any further information, we will send that in the form of a press release. Thank you.
I'm going to give a round of applause for Jonathan.
That was Chief Anne Kirkpatrick, along with state troopers as well, giving us an update on, of course, the third person, which we reported a little bit earlier today, that was captured. That was out of the 10 that escaped. So you're seeing it on your screen right now. 3 people captured today. That is just hours after breaking out of jail. And we've seen this entire ordeal play out on camera. And right now, we, of course, are continuing to follow along with any updates that we're going to get. And, of course, obviously have that on our website, WWLTV.com.
I'm joined now by Chief Investigator David Hammer. I know your phone has been ringing off the hook all day long. One of the big takeaways I think a lot of people have from today is the political factor of all of this, and it seems as though the sheriff is very concerned about that. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, well, there were 2 press conferences this afternoon where she responded to all of these concerns, obviously, and the spectacular failure that we see here. And the first thing out of her mouth is politics, and the last thing out of her mouth in the last press conference was politics that her opponents somehow, and she just made the suggestion like it was on purpose and that it was orchestrated by her political opponents, but gave no proof of any kind. And it all led into this idea that it was just too convenient that this was happening as she's starting her re-election campaign. And of course, part and parcel to that is that it has to have been an inside job with people who work for the sheriff's office working to make this happen. I think that it's clear that there's clear indication that that had to have been part of this, because otherwise how could they have managed to do everything that they did and to have gone undetected by anybody on the staff, supposedly undetected, for as long as they did? Because if they made the move at 12:23 a.m., got out, as we see in the monitor, as they got out at around 1 a.m., and then nobody notices supposedly until 8:30 a.m., that's obviously, people need to know that that's going on. Now, the blame is also on the low staffing. If you have only one civilian employee who's in a booth monitoring the pods and monitoring on this one Delta 1 pod, as they call it, on the first floor, and goes to lunch, goes to take a break, and immediately upon leaving the monitoring area, the inmates make their move, then you can see how, if it's just a matter of not enough staff, you could say that that could lead to this. But then nobody noticing for all those hours, and all of the work that had to go into actually creating the hole in the wall and making a clean cut in that sizable rebar, that doesn't happen with nobody noticing.
Yeah, there's so many holes here, I feel like, in this story that could be filled in later as an investigation unfolds, or who knows what we might find out. The clean cuts are definitely one of them, because you can't clean cut rebar without some type of a tool. Also, you and I were talking about the length of time that this went on. We know they were kind of fiddling with the door around like 12:20, and we're still on the property after 1 a.m., which is a really long time to be away from watching a camera.
Right, exactly. And if it's true that there were 36 people on staff for the entire jail to watch 1,500 inmates on 8 separate pods, to monitor all of that with only that number of people, that's a problem. But Sheriff Hudson and her staff blamed a lack of funding. But we see that there was funding provided. Obviously, there's a dedicated millage, and there was more funding in her budget than there was for former Sheriff Marlon Guzman's budget to run the same jail. So that's a real concern. You know, what is their explanation? They've given no specifics. They claim poverty, but they give no specifics about why they weren't able to fix these locks that they said that have been broken for a long time and things like that.
Yeah, that's definitely one of, we do see this blame shifting, I think, today. And like you mentioned, those locks have been a key thing. We saw a video of them kind of pulling them open. So is there any kind of answer yet on, do they have the money to fix this? Have they been fixed, or have they not?
Well, what we need to do is get the information from public records of what they have in the budget dedicated to these things. But the problem is that other agencies have public-facing, budget information. The sheriff's office does not have it broken down like that with their contracts. They claim they couldn't afford a regular maintenance contract to maintain these things. We need to see that information, and the city council has requested that information and has not received it to this time.
Now, we know that Sheriff Hudson is getting a lot of heat today from residents, from constituents, citizens, and also from fellow leaders in city government. So when it comes to, I guess, what happens next here, what does happen next? What are you looking for? And also, what are we going to find out about the conditions inside the jail in terms of how much control she had over what was going on?
Well, we do expect there to be a state investigation of what went on. You know, the sheriff says that she's investigating. There are 3 employees who have been suspended, and they're doing an investigation. But can the sheriff investigate her own office here? Unlikely to be able to do that in a fair manner. You would think that the Attorney General's office or other state officials would be leading an investigation. We also know that the City Council plans to meet on Tuesday to get more information about this and to request documents and all of that. So we're going to learn more as time goes on, and we're going to pursue public records as we can get them about the staffing levels, about the funding levels, and all of these things that Sheriff Hudson blamed in these press conferences and then turned around and said it was politically orchestrated without any proof.
We know you're going to keep following it. That's the whole very meaty behind the scenes part. Meanwhile, we also have the survivors of these crimes that are actively in danger. We have the police investigation into finding these fugitives now. So kind of a twofold thing as we move forward.
Yeah, and keep in mind you had a convicted murderer, Derek Groves, in among these inmates who escaped.
Yeah.
And that person already had a trial with witnesses who testified that he could see who they were, and he was supposed to be sentenced to a mandatory life sentence in prison. He was still in OJC and has now escaped, so there's real concern for a number of people, and the sheriff's office, to their credit, does say that they are working with victims, they're working with witnesses. Prosecutors could even be in danger now, and the FBI is also part of this effort to track down these escapees.
David, thank you so much. A wealth of information, and I know we'll be talking to you a lot about this in the future. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Coming up, we continue to follow this escape as we learn more details about each of these men. Stay with us.
Hello, hello, hello.